my name is Victoria Sanderson, and I am going to talk to you about my Tableau project for the BA 513 Infotech and Analytics. Just a little bit of background when I was completing this project. The hardest part for me was trying to narrow down a topic. I really wanted to pick something that I've been having questions with while watching the news and reading social media. We get so much information, but how often do we actually go out and verify it with real data? So I decided to explore something that I've had questions on, and that is if stricter regulations and mandates help states slow the spread of the coronavirus. So this is an analysis of the effect of government regulations during a pandemic. And on this slide, I will talk to you about my citations. So Tableau provided the starter workbook, which was the bulk of my data, but I also went out and downloaded some information from the National Governors Association as well as census.gov to get some population records. From the National Governors Association, I was able to obtain governor information as well as information regarding what actions states are taking to combat the coronavirus and stop the spread in their state. So my next slide is a dashboard, an interactive dashboard. This is really talking about some key facts and figures about each state and explains the analysis in the future sheets of this workbook. So here you can select which state you'd like to explore, and when you update that, all of these other actions are going to update. It's going to give you a map that tells you the population, the action level, and the score. So the action level and the score come in to the government regulations and executive orders. So if you look down, there are different genres here explaining what the state has done in regards to these questions. Have there been school closures? For Kentucky, that's been recommended through the end of the school year. Is there gathering and stay-at-home orders? Is there statewide curfew? Mandatory face masks? Business closures? Domestic travel restrictions? Different things like that. When I got this data, I had to clean it and code it so that I could use it for my purposes. And the way that I did that was I assigned a value to each one of these answers. If the answer stated that it was all required, as in all patrons are required to wear a face mask, or here, school closures, all schools are closed through the end of the school year, then that was assigned a 2. And if some actions were required, here for the face masks in the business, some were required. It's mandatory for employees of certain businesses, but not all people, then it was assigned a 1. If it's not required, then it is assigned a 0. So there was no statewide curfew for Kentucky, so it was assigned a 0. So other information I have on this page is just governor name, current governor, and the date that governor took office, as well as their party affiliation. Additionally, I wanted to include access to their reopening plans and their task force that they're affiliated with. So these are all hyperlinked, and you can click on them and the web page will come up. So as you can see, this is the Kentucky.gov. 4 more states added to the Partnership of Reopening Regional Economies. So that information is there if you'd like to read up more on what your specific state is going to do next. So to get into the analysis, this tab analyzes the confirmed cases and the death cases. So you can click which state you want to look at. So I've got here Kentucky, and also you can look at the total cases as well as the new cases. Each bar will tell you the date that it is referring to, as well as the totals at the top. So this is just some general information if you want to take a look at the confirmed cases and the new cases and the deaths and the total cases. This particular workbook was on the Tableau starter workbook, but I made some adjustments like adding the state and taking out country so that it fit our purposes for this analysis. The next, I made a bubble chart that compares the cases per capita, which was cases divided by population, and this is the cases per capita of new cases. So as you can see, some of the larger ones here in North Dakota, Louisiana, they're starting to get more cases than they expected, or than they recently than previously. So if you hover over here, you can look at the cases per capita as well as the party affiliation and state abbreviation, and you can highlight each one on the side here as well. The next slide compares the deaths and confirms, but I wanted to take confirmed cases, but I wanted to take a look at the differences in range. So most of these are in line, each state is in line with their confirmed and their deaths. But you have a few states that have annotated here that have huge jumps between their levels here. So I've annotated Massachusetts and also New York and gave some information on that, as well as if you wanted to look just at the high levels, just below the levels, or the moderate, you can too. As well as the population sizes here, it gives a little bit of a range. So the last analysis that I performed was the average number of new cases per action level. So I did a scatter plot and I assigned the trend line to each group of data. And I did this because I wanted to see what the p-value was and see if that was significant trend downward or upward. And I found that for states with a high level of action, so they have the most mandates, they had a very significant p-value of 0.03, which is below the standard of 0.05. So we would consider this to be significant, and they're trending downward. So this supports the hypothesis of if stricter regulations are slowing the spread of coronavirus, because this is for new cases over here in the metric. Next, if you you can look at the moderate down here, and it also is significant, but in the opposite direction. So the moderate group has a p-value of 0.03666, and it is trending upward, which means that they're either not doing enough mandates and regulations, or they started too late. We could investigate further into why they are trending upwards and not downwards in their new cases. And last, which I thought was interesting, was the low values were not significant. So they were not trending up or down either way, or we just don't have enough data yet to further investigate this. So maybe if we get next month's data, we will have more information on where that's trending. So in conclusion, based on the average number of those new cases, we can see that there is a significant decrease in the number of new cases, average number of new cases for high level states. The p-value was well below the 0.05, meaning that that is a significant relationship. As well as this is true for the moderate level of states, but they are trending upwards. And the low levels were not significant because the p-value was greater than 0.05. Please let me know if you have any questions about my analysis further. This concludes my discussion for now. Thank you for your time.